Alright, let's bring our palms together then. In veneration of the Supremely Enlightened One, the Perfect One, the Magnificent One, reminding ourselves that all of this is worth the effort and more because of the sacrifice that He made on our behalf, as well as the disciples that have descended since the time of the Buddha, each and every one of them, the bhikkhus and the bhikkhunis, and the upasakas and the upasikas, in whose footsteps today we walk, because they walked along that path before us. As arduous the journey might have been for them, they did it nonetheless, because they knew that there would be others to follow. They had compassion and kindness towards us, and therefore it is our duty today to walk in those footsteps with veneration for the effort that they made on our behalf. And as we bring our palms together in veneration of that nobleness, let us also remind ourselves that this is a pledge of allegiance that we take to commit and devote ourselves to our freedom, to our liberation, as well as that of others who depend on us, who care about us, and who are inspired by us. Let us make this promise to ourselves to have the Buddha, which is the ultimate destination, as our goal, the Dhamma, which is the path, and the Sangha, which is our practice to get there, as our only refuge. And as we do so, in order to do so, let us chant the Namaskara. Let us then observe the precepts and commence with today's proceedings. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Right. Now, I want each and every one of you to engage with the Swaminathan. And how does one do that? Focus. You have already decided to make this commitment of time. There's no turning back now. Especially if you're on the other side of the room. There's no turning back now, you have to wait until the sermon's over. So now that you have decided to be here, be here. There's a difference between being here and being here. Isn't there? One half of that, the being here, is you physically being here. That we know is fixed, that's certain. I have no doubt about that. Till the end of this sermon, you will be here. But the other being here, that I'm not so certain. Because you can drift from time to time. Because the mind is like that. Durangamang ekacharan. It goes on trips. It goes on long journeys. It travels all by itself. And we don't even know that it has happened. Sometimes even you don't know that it has happened until after the fact. We don't even know that it has happened. And so sometimes maybe we're in the middle of explaining something, and if you drift, like I tend to do, if you drift, then sometimes you end up losing the plot. But days like this are really conducive to a good Dhamma sermon, because for one, I can actually see. I can see you right at the last person in the room. I can actually see you. For once, I can say that. I can look into your eyes and I can read you. That's very important. It's very important for the Swaminathan to be able to read you. If you get what I mean. If you've done a talk to any kind of audience before, it really helps if you can engage with them. And that engagement, I think, if there are teachers in the room who I'm sure will be able to agree with me, when you can read your students, you can look into their eyes and you know that they've got it or they haven't got it. That's fine. It doesn't mean that you have to understand everything I share with you, but I need to know that you are present. Not just physically, but your whole being is here. So that determination I want you to make and engage with the Swami Nuhanse. There may be 200 odd people in this room right now, but ignore all of them except one. For the duration of your stay here, it's just going to be you and Swami Nuhanse. That's it. Okay? Try and switch off everyone else from your world. Can you all do that? Let's try that. Okay. Because now we have to face reality. The truth is, although you might think that you have everyone around you, you're actually very much alone. So you're so alone that not even two of your chittas are there at the same time. See, your mind will keep telling you that you did X, Y, Z yesterday. You did certain things yesterday, right? Yesterday was a Saturday, right? And you would have done your Saturday routine yesterday, whatever you would have done. Some of you would have been the day where you come to the monastery, and some of you were there. For others, it might have been the day you do your shopping, and you would have done that. Maybe it's the day you do your chores, and you would have done that. Run errands, be with your family, walk the dog. Whatever it is, you would have done that. And that might be your Saturday routine. So now as you think about your yesterday, your today makes you feel like, well, you were there yesterday. And even if no one else was there, still, you had yourself to be with, right? You had yourself there. You were there. Your memories were there from yesterday. That's why when people are alone, what do they tend to do? They take a swim in the ocean of the past, of their memories, right? And people tend to do that. Sometimes when people, like they lay down on the beach or on their beds and look up at the sky or the ceiling, and their mind starts to drift into memories of the past. And sometimes they laugh all by themselves. You're wondering why they laugh. Are they gone crazy? Some cry. You've never done that? You never done that? Huh, okay. But that's what we tend to do, right? We feel like even if no one's with us, I still have myself. Me, myself, and I. The three people who like to spend the time together the most. Me, myself, and I. But the truth is this though. The Buddha says, Puttá Matti, Dhanan Matti. I'll explain to you what that means in a moment. Iti balo vihanyati. So what he says is, fools, a balaya is a fool, someone who is not mature, someone who has not yet seen the dhamma, you can take it in those terms, someone who is still blind, okay? A balaya, or someone who is a fool. Puttá Matti, Dhanan Matti. This man, he thinks that he's got his children. He thinks he has his family. He thinks he has his friends, his people. He thinks he has that. Puttá is represent Puttá it literally means sons, but it symbolizes the whole lot. Dhanan Matti, wealth, property, assets, these things that people think they have. Iti balo vihanyati. This is how a fool spends his time. Attahi attano natti. Oh, I love that line. He goes on to say, when you don't even have yourself, kuto Puttá, kuto Dhanan. when you don't even have yourself, whence sons, whence wealth? Now, this is what the Buddha says. Okay? What the Buddha says is one, but what you experience day in, day out may be different. Just for now. And that's okay, because there's some kind of mismatch here. That the Buddha says something and our experience is different. So we need to tally this somewhere. Well, let's work out where this discrepancy is. How come the Buddha says that you don't even have yourself for yourself? Attahi attano natti. You don't even have yourself to yourself. What are you talking about? Sons and wealth and all that. What property are you talking about? What assets are you talking about? What children are you talking about? What neighbors, what relations are you talking about? You say you have all these people for yourself. You don't even have yourself to yourself. See, even when not even you belong to you, when your past doesn't belong to you, when your future doesn't belong to you, how can anything else in this world belong to you? How can anyone else in this world belong to you? Ladies and gentlemen, you are alone. You are a mere singularity. You are your thoughts right now, and that's it. Nothing more. Your thought a moment ago, your mind a moment ago, it arose and it passed away. The one that's about to come hasn't come yet. It hasn't arrived yet. So in this moment, if you were to freeze time, whatever your thoughts are right now, that's all that exists in this world for you. Most everyone here will own a car. At least you'll have a family car, right? See, until I spoke those words, you were not thinking about your car, hopefully. You haven't started drifting yet, right? You were not thinking about your car. But the moment I spoke the word car, then a picture flashed in your mind, didn't it? Yeah? Whose car flashed in your mind? Your car flashed through your mind. Okay, now I really want you to pay attention to this and think about this, okay? Because this is profound and simple both at the same time. Its simplicity is in the fact that it is the truth. Whether you believe it or not, it is the truth, therefore it is what exists. Its profoundness is in the fact that you may never have looked at the world in this way before. Because you've always trained your mind to think that you have your mother, you have your father. Do you remember when you were just an infant? You don't, do you? But you were. And when you were just an infant, when you were just a child, your mother would have carried you, your father would have carried you, someone would have carried you, hopefully. Hopefully you got a little bit of love. Someone would have held you in their arms, right? And made you feel that there were people there for you. That someone was there for you. And then you had siblings. You had your family, your extended family. Whenever you had family get-togethers, what did your adults do with you? They'd ask you to come closer, right? Maybe sat you on their lap, right? Stroked your head, caressed you, hugged you, kissed you. Yeah, you know what I mean? We've all experienced that. Each of those experiences reinforced a feeling of belonging. Yes or no? Yeah. Each of those experiences reinforced a sense of belonging, a sense of, I'm not alone. I have all these people here for me. That's where it all started to go wrong. See, you were given this impression that there was always going to be people there to support you. You were given this feeling that you don't need to be worried about anything because there'll be people around you to support you. Well, I ask you this question. Let's take a really simple example. You stub your toe on something, a rock, maybe the leg of a desk as you're walking around. What can the people around you do to relieve the pain? can they take some of that pain from you? You have a headache. Let's say you have a headache. You have a migraine. Is it migraine or migraine? Which one? Migraines. Both right. Okay. So you have a migraine. And you have everyone around you in the family. They're all sat around you. They're there for you, right? Apparently, they're there for you, right? Okay, they're being there for you does what when you have a migraine? You have a toothache. Now I'm talking. Yeah? Now we are talking, right? You have a toothache. Let's say there's someone in the family who's had a toothache before, and they're also sat with you. They don't have it now, they've had it before. And you say, oh, what's going on? Oh, it really hurts. Oh God, I wish I was dead right now. Shoot me, will you? Right? But this person who sat next to you, they love you to the moon and back. But tell me, their being there for you does what for you? How can they take some of that pain from you? Lately I've been talking a little bit about love. And I've been talking about it both at the monastery to our own people as well as, our own people. Because the point is this. You're all very good people. It's only a good person who would want to do something like this and free themselves and their friends and their family from the lurches of suffering, right? I get that. There's a place that good people always get trapped, and that is this feeling of love and belonging and a sense of that we're all here for each other and all that stuff. This is all cooked up in your mind, ladies and gentlemen. It is not necessary now for me to say don't kill, don't steal, don't backbite, don't lie. I don't need to say these things to you because you never done probably. And you were always good, law-abiding, kind-hearted, nice people. Generally, everyone's a nice person. Unless you're hurt, you don't hurt. Right? Yeah, unless you're hurt, you don't hurt. But probably the majority of you were even better than that. Even when you were hurt, you were patient. Rather than venting your frustration or your anger on someone else, you bore the brunt of it. And you were good like that. So you're all good people, I like to think. The problem that good people tend to have is that they tend to have these ideas that I'm so loving, everyone else is so loving, we're all very loving, it's so lovey, 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 the whole world is so lovey. Jesus did say, love thy neighbor, but not in the way that you think he might have meant it. People think love thy neighbor means I have to go loving everyone. So why don't you get married to all your neighbors then? That's not what he meant. What he meant was try and understand what it means to be neighbors. It's not necessarily physical neighbors. The next Citta that is about to arise in your mind is a neighbor to the one that's there right now. Is it not? Love thy neighbor then. If you know that the next Citta is going to arise in your mind and it will have to bear the consequences of the actions that you take in this one, how much love do you think you must have towards thy neighbor? That's the kind of love you're talking about. Sabba sattesu metta sahagatena cetasa viharanang samadhyami. That was the precept that you just observed. Everyone can do selfish love. But I'm not talking about a selfish love. I'm talking about a love where there is no self. Selfless love. To do a selfless love, to love selflessly, you must first become selfless. It's a bit like last week we talked about the two kinds of charity. Do you remember? There was giving to and giving up. Which one is selfless? Which one is selfish? Giving up is selfless. Giving to is selfish. You gotta understand self and ish. Like we use this word ish as a suffix when we want to say something is kind of like that, right? He's good-ish, meaning he's not great, but he's all right. How's the food? It's okay-ish. But these words get into my vocabulary when I spent a good time in the UK. That's where I learned ish from. Then they had this kebab-ish. Joints. So self-ish, this ish implies that it is like that. It kind of makes the word preceding that an adjective. Selfish. So when Jesus said, love thy neighbor, we've got to understand what that actually meant. Because when we were younger, like I said earlier, people around you, your family, your friends, they surrounded you. They doted on you. They showed you something that you interpreted was love. That was your own interpretation. Now, my point is this. When you feel loved, you feel that X person actually emanates love from them, and that's the love that you experience. That's the kind of feeling that we have. That's why we like to think that others love us, don't you? Don't you like to think that you're loved by others? Do you like to think that nobody else loves you really, but you have to cook up your own love? Do you like to think about, you don't like to think like that. You actually like to think that your mother loves you. In other words, she has lots of love inside of her, which she gives you. So it's kind of like a love transfer, like you do money transfers. That's how you'd like it to be. I'm sure, I understand that. Your spouse. You like to think that your spouse has so much love for you, and that love he or she transfers to you by flowers, chocolate, nice words, whatever. Actually, that's not what's really going on. It's time to unveil, draw the curtain, and actually open the bonnet, whichever metaphor you want to use, and actually try and understand what's really going on. Because if you don't, you get stuck again. Remember, you cannot attach to something that's on the outside world. You can only attach. Attachment only arises to whatever you cook up in your own mind. Believe you me, ladies and gentlemen, that's how it always works. Take sensuality for a second. Lust. Whenever you have experienced sensuality, lust, these are feelings when you start heating up on the inside. You know that you're full of attachment at that time. These are not things that can ever come to you from the outside. Otherwise, how can you, say someone complains, that man has been looking at me lustfully. You get these complaints. You go to the police station, anyone nearby, and they'll tell you how people come and they complain. But the observer, the person, the perpetrator, apparently felt lustful towards someone when they were giving off no lust at all, were they? Otherwise, why would they have gone and complained about it? You get what I mean? So it's not something that comes to us from the outside. It's cooked up on the inside. So if the people around you are the ones who love you, and it's love that they have that is born within them, that they emanate towards you, why can't you take someone else's pain as well then? Think about it for a second. Let's assume for a second that you're right and I'm wrong. Okay, so your wife loves you, your mother loves you, your children love you. Okay, they're full of love. Their whole body is full of love, and they just want to give that love to you. Let's assume that. So by that token, we've got to admit then that any feelings, emotions that they have within themselves, they can kind of sort of transfer to you. They can throw it at you and all you have to do is catch it. Like, you know how they do flying kisses? Now don't look at me like you've never done one of those before. Huh? Yeah, like they throw it at you and what are you supposed to do? Catch it, right? Yeah. See, we might laugh about it, but what we've got to understand is this is how the mind works. This is how the mind works. You actually think that, when you do that, because all this, we've come up with all these ways and means of dealing with people because we actually feel that someone actually has love that they want to give us. Now, my point is this is my argument. If someone has love and they can transfer it to you, then someone should also have pain and be able to transfer it to you. If that were true, when you're in pain, you should also be able to transfer it to people around you. And then every time you transfer that, you should be able to relieve yourself of pain. Does that work like that? Say your best friend, he's grieving the death of his mother. What's the best you can do? Can you take some of his pain from him? Or her? Could you do that? You can't do that. All you can do is you can say, I'm going to give him some support, some moral support. And then you'll walk up to him, sit down with them, right? You'll start talking to them. But you'll say nice things about the mother. You'll say, but she would not want you to cry like this. She was always there for you. She's such a wonderful person. Do you know why you're actually saying all these things? You're trying to make an effect in their mind. You can't transfer anything you have to them. All you can do is create an effect in their own minds. And that's what you're trying to do with these words. See, if that is true, then we have to admit that emotions cannot be transferred between people, between individuals. So then how do you know that your loved ones actually love you? There's no way to verify that. There's no way to actually check it. There's no litmus test that you could do. You can't say, come on then, all right, submit your love. Let me check it. Let me just make sure that that's genuine love. You can do any of those things. All in all, what I'm trying to get across to you is you are alone. Any emotion that you feel that someone's feeling towards you is one you have cooked up inside of you. Alas. When you think someone hates you, and if you feel that, I think they really hate me, right? If you're thinking about that hate you cook up inside. Because you can only experience what you make in your own minds. Otherwise, tell me what I'm thinking about you right now. Go on then. You can't. But you can assume, can't you? You're probably thinking, Swami Nwas is thinking that we are very compassionate, we are very kind, we are very nice people. I won't say anything because I don't want to burst any bubbles. But what happens is, for all intents and purposes, could it not be that I'm just coming here doing a pretense? This is all a show. I'm not really interested in your salvation. All I'm interested in is in the alms food that you put into my alms bowl at the end of one of these sermons. Could I not be pretending right now? Like I really care about you and I want the best for you. Whereas in the back of my mind, all I'm thinking is, I wonder what they might have brought for me for this afternoon. Well, last week it was this. There were some biscuits, there was some cheese, some pasta. Not had any pizza recently. Now don't all bring pizza next week. Just one or two will be enough. Don't all bring it. That's what I'm saying. How do you know what I'm feeling right now towards you? Whether it is love or compassion or kindness or whatever it is. How do you know that I'm actually wishing you well? How can you tell? Now, but you could assume, you could actually start thinking, well, Swaminathan is so nice. He always comes every week and he talks to us. He must really be kind. I can sense him. You'll begin to say, I can feel him. He is really very compassionate. Whenever you think that, whenever you say that, that compassion is actually born in your own mind. Sadhu sadhu. Good. Because that's exactly what I want. My compassion will not do anything for you. Your own compassion is what's going to be your savior. That's why compassion that's born in your heart is going to be your light, not mine. My compassion does nothing for you. That's why if I do have compassion, then what I'm supposed to do is to create compassion in each of your own minds. Otherwise it's pointless. That's why if you were deaf, I would not be able to help you. But I'd still have the same compassion. But if you were deaf, how could I ignite, how could I light compassion in your hearts and in your minds? I wouldn't be able to do that. What am I trying to get at? Why all this? What's the real takeaway here? You are alone. Because when the Buddha says, Puttā Matti, Dhanan Matti, iti balo vihanyati, he says this is how fools spend their time. Fools keep thinking to themselves, well, I have my family. I have my mother, I have my father, I have my children for me. See, they're all around me. They're always asking after me. They ring me once a week just to check in with me, to see if I'm okay. My son has never missed one of my birthdays. He's always remembered my birthday, even after he got married and left the home. He still remembers my birthday. He rings me, he brings me chocolate, and you think, well, my son is always there for me. No one's there for you. Not even your past is there for you today. Because the Citta that arose in those minds now is not there now. Atta hi atta no natti. You don't even have yourself for yourself. Because all that is present, ladies and gentlemen, is all that is present. That's all there is. You are merely momentary manifestations of vipaka. That's it. Everything you recall from your past are mere memories. Those memories are drawn upon in this moment by this Citta. That was not you in the past. That was simply a memory of the past. But in this moment, because you feel that you are a self, your mind has this tendency to connect all those past moments and make you feel like it all happened to you. Because what happens is, on the stage, you bring an actor. You bring the actor, and now everything that was on the script, all those dialogues were said out loud by whom? By this actor that you have just brought onto the stage. It's time for that actor to get off the blooming stage. I'm asking you, the actors, to get off, go get yourself a job. This is not working out for you. You keep thinking you're actors. And so you play out this script and you think, right, I'm the one who said this, I'm the one who said that. That's why you feel guilt. Everyone or anyone who's experienced guilt in their lives in the past, blink. That's good enough. Why do I say that? Because at some point you're all going to blink, and we've all experienced guilt at some point in our lives. I don't need to ask you to raise your hands up because it's not necessary. Do you know why you experience guilt? Because you feel like it was you who did it in the past, whatever that deed was. And today you have regret because it was you who did it. What about pride? Pride. Pride for your achievements from last year. People tend to have these things, right? See, I worked hard and I earned my first car. That was me. It was all my hard work. I did all that. When I bought my house, no one was there to help me. I did it all by myself. No one was there to support me. You hear, usually parents, grandparents, they tend to say these things to their children to make them feel like, you have to work. If you want something, you have to, and that's good. I'm not taking anything away from that. The intention is good, but the ego that happens in the mind, as they say these things aloud, if they don't have the dhamma, once again they feel Dhanan Matti. See, I have my wealth, I have my property. Attahi attano natti. When you don't even have yourself for yourself. Kuto Puttá, kuto Dhanan. Where are your children? Let's take a few practical examples to help really drive the point here. Now, say most of you will have some family of some sort. Either children, siblings, spouse, someone that you live with, right? Tell me one thing that they have actually ever made you feel. Just give me one thing. I'll repeat the question. Name one thing that they have made you feel. Now you're thinking, what have they made me feel? Angry, they made me feel annoyed all of the time. Sometimes they make me feel happy, sometimes they make me feel valued, sometimes they make me feel blessed, right? These are thoughts that keep going through your mind. But wait, hold on. That's not the question I asked you. Here's the question again. Name one thing that they made you feel, not you cooked up on your own inside. Aren't there times when you're angry and no one else in the room knows? Let's say there's a mosquito. Right? You're trying to get some sleep. Right? And no mosquito net. The fan's not working either, there's a power cut. Right? So now there's a mosquito. So this mosquito is just flying around your head like, and it lands on somewhere and then it bites. Right? But you have observed the precepts now, so you can't teach it a lesson it's never going to forget either. Sabba sattesu. Ever since Swamin Wahanse did that to us, right? Now I can't even teach the mosquito a good lesson that they will never forget. So now you get annoyed at some point. You keep chasing the thing, but you have to sleep because otherwise you come and sleep in Sunday morning sermon, right? So you have to keep chasing the buggers away. But at some point you're going to get annoyed with them. Now, when you feel that annoyance, that irritation, is there anyone else in the room who feels that? Does the mosquito feel that? No, what's the mosquito thinking? Yum, yum, yum. Dinner's served. That's what the mosquito's thinking. If only I can land on that long enough. It's plotting up. Like its next meal. That's what it's doing. But you're feeling frustrated, you're feeling irritated, you're feeling annoyed, you can't do anything about this situation other than just bear it. Now, if you feel irritated at this point, is that an irritation that the mosquito transferred to you? Is that an annoyance, that this anger, the annoyance that you're feeling, is it something that the mosquitoes just transferred to you? Can the mosquito do that if it wanted to? You know for certain that the mosquito is not going through that right now. All it's interested is in just sucking some blood out of you. So where did that irritation come out of? It was born in your own mind. Let's take another example, an example you have to face in every day of the week pretty much, when you're driving on the streets of Colombo. Did I hit a nerve? There are far too many vehicles on the road, don't you agree? Yes, every vehicle other than yours is an extra one, isn't it? Yours is all right, right? You're not the one who's causing the traffic, it's everybody else. Of course it is. Tell them that. So when they just pull up in front of you, or when they slow down and their brake lights aren't working either, or someone just puts their hand out because they want the bus to stop, right? And the bus driver has no sense at all about the fact that you're going up a hill, right? And you're stuck behind him, and you just want to overtake himself, but without warning, they just stop, like frozen. Been there, done that? Okay, good example then. I was there myself, but I'm free from that now. That was to the Buddha. Thanks to him, I don't have to endure any of that discomfort anymore because you are more than happy to drive me around. Thank you. See, to get from A to B, you don't need to be a driver. You just need to have one. You just need a vehicle. You don't have to own the vehicle. Yeah. So say, if I'm driven in a car, I'm a passenger and the driver might be the owner. Which one of us gets to the destination sooner? It's unfair though, isn't it? I mean, the owner should get there first and I should kind of come later. That's how it should work, but that's not how it does work. Meaning you don't need to own anything to make use of it. I don't own this board, but I can use it. So now you're stuck in traffic. People are just driving erratically and they just don't seem to have any road discipline at all, right? In these moments, now say there's a three-wheel driver. They see us like a 1-inch opening between you and the vehicle in front of you. What must they do? Capitalize the opportunity. So what do? They capitalize the opportunity. And they budge in. You know what I mean. Yeah, you know what I mean. I don't need to, because I wouldn't be able to express it as well as you have experienced because you do it every day. It's been a while since I've been in that boat. Now, in that moment, that annoyance, that anger that you experience, do you think the driver that just budged in front of you is feeling the same? Is he? Then how come you say that it was he or she who made you angry? Because they never made anger. They never made it to give it to you. They were far too busy trying to find a small gap to shove their vehicles in there. They were far too busy doing that. They never had the time to make anger to give it to you, or make irritation up to give it to you. So then any emotion that you experience, where is all that created? Where's the laboratory for all of that? Your own minds. So then who's responsible? Who's responsible for every single feeling that you have? Who? Who alone is responsible? You and you alone, ladies and gentlemen. See, therefore, is it not imperative that you learn how to control your mind so that you don't feel anger? Because you don't like to feel anger. No one's out there giving you anger. You make it up yourself. But you then say, I don't like to be angry, so don't make me angry. What? You really make me angry when you say that. No, actually, I'm telling you now. I need you to come to your senses. You are alone. In a world in which you are alone, how can anyone else make you angry? Because no one else is there in your world. No one else is there in your world. You are alone. You've never seen anything on the outside. What do I mean by that? Anything you have seen has always been colorful, hasn't it? But colors don't exist in the outside world. So you've never really seen anything in the outside world. So you don't even know whether the outside world even exists or not. What evidence do you have that the world out there exists? Well, I know what you're thinking. But Swami answer, yes, I might not be able to see, but I can touch it. I know that this chair is here. Really? This feeling of touch, right? This hardness that you might experience when you hold on to something, that's that feeling of hardness. Do you think that that feeling travels through your nerves? When you hold on to something, you grab this, right, and you squeeze it. You feel that hardness. This is a hard substance, right? Do you think that that feeling of hardness, it really travels down your nerves? The only thing that travels down your nerves is an electrical signal. Is electricity hard? An electrical impulse? How can we talk about a hardness or a softness of an electrical impulse? That's all that travels down your nerves, all the way up there, all the way to your brain, and then your mind interprets that electrical signal as hardness. So where did hard come in? Where was that feeling of hardness? Cooked up in your own mind. So then tell me, is this hard or soft? I'm talking about the object now. Is this object hard or soft? How can you tell? Right, so this tablecloth, it's kind of like velvety, isn't it? Silky. Is it? So if you rubbed your hand over it, right, you can experience that silkiness. Is that a characteristic of the tablecloth? Well, if it's not, then how do you know that this actually exists here? Because there's only one way in which you know that something exists. When you push, it pushes back. That's how you know something physical exists out there. But then, hey, we have a problem now. Because that experience of something pushing back on you is an interpretation of your own mind. Because when you say something pushes back, what you're really saying is, it's hard. That's what you're saying. When you say something soft, what you're saying is, it's not pushing back as much. Isn't it so? Yes? So that's, like there are some parts of, say where there's a lot of fat tissue. You push and it's not so hard. But bone tissue, it's hard. So you use that information in your minds and you interpret the world. You're living in a fantasy, ladies and gentlemen. This is a novel and you're the scriptwriter. You're the author. You must give yourself more credit than this, really. Because you are very skilled at creating universes out of nothing. That's how alone you are. You are so alone. Hear me out. You are so alone that when you feel this feeling of loneliness, what you do is you create a whole world around you so that you don't have to feel alone anymore. That's like your little playhouse when you were young. Remember, you used to play with dolls and a playpen and a playhouse. I used to make tea and cook food, right? And plastic things. And you remember playhouse? Because you wanted to be the mother or the father of the household, but you couldn't do that because you were still too young. So what did you do? You pretended to be that, right? So you created your own world, right? And we say that that is what children do. That's what kids do. They're kids. They do that sort of thing, right? They pretend. And remember when you were younger, you would probably have wanted to, go out and work because that's what your father did. You saw him do that. You saw your mother do that. So what did you do? You found a suitcase, the old one that he stopped using, he threw it, but you went and found it, right? You put your what do you call it, coloring book, because your father used to take his documents to work. So what did you put into it? your coloring book, your story books. Huh? You put all that into it, and some pencils and some pens and whatever. You put into your briefcase, and then you got into his shoes. Yeah, you had size 2s, he had a size 9 shoe, right? You got into that, right? And then maybe you found some old spectacles from somewhere. You wore that, put that on your head, and you started walking. How do I know this? My mother said so. Apparently some neighbor had to bring me back. The other day she came to the monastery, and again she was embarrassing me with all those stories from the past. She likes to do that. Actually, I'd actually done that when I was younger. I think I'd gone I'd gone to work. I was only, 4 or 5 years old. I'd packed my stuff and gone out. I was waiting to catch a bus. And then fortunately some neighbor had spotted me and they brought me back home. See, right from back then I wanted to go on my own journey. If only they'd realized that. Those were the telltale signs of what was to come. So do you remember doing that sort of thing? And when you want to play mother, now I've seen a lot of young girls, they want to be mother. What do? They find this, what are they called? Carts, no, trolleys. No. Prams, right? Prams, yes. They find these prams and they put a doll into it, and the mother has the pram for the girl, but now she's tired of being in the pram, so she gets off and then she has her own pram. I've seen this a lot. So the mother's pushing the pram. That's the pram for the daughter, but now she's tired of being in the pram. So what does she do? She gets off the pram and then she has her own toy pram, in which there's a doll, and so both the mother and the daughter, they're pushing prams. Now, think about the mind of that girl. Do you think she's actually playing at that time? Do you think that she reads the world the same way that the mother reads her? No, because then it wouldn't be fun for her. For her, the daughter, this is actually a real experience for her. She's enjoying every bit of it just as much as the mother might when she pushes the pram for her daughter. She's experiencing it just as much. But we know in real terms that of course these two things are not the same. So we say that's very childish. Now just imagine if the daughter, if she was only 5, 6, 7 years of age, you'd be okay with that. But just imagine if they continued that 15, 16, 17 years of age, what would you say then? Your 16-year-old daughter, she also pushes a pram with a doll in it. What might you do? Take her to the psychiatrist maybe? Yes or no? Yes or no? Of course you would. Why? Yeah, because you'd say that's very abnormal. Yeah, because now she's an adult. She's not supposed to do childish things. What's the childish thing about it? About pushing a pram? You're reserving comment because you know where I'm going to get at. That's not fair. Come on now. You know where I'm going with this, right? Yes, it's not socially acceptable because an adult should not be doing childish things. What's the childishness of that thing that she's doing? What is it? She's creating a world that does not exist. Isn't that the childish thing that she's doing? When I was younger, again, I remember, I loved driving. I thought I loved driving because I'd never driven a car, so I thought driving was fun. So what I used to do was we had old chairs at home. Actually, I made them old. They were fine before I had a go at them. So what I used to do was I used to take chairs, turn them upside down, right, and then push them along the floor because you could turn them, and once you turn it upside down, so that was how I used to drive when I was younger. They were good chairs until I turned them around and then dragged them on the ground, and then you couldn't use it anymore. But that's how I had fun. And then I remember I had little toys like, aircraft. and things. And what did I do with that? I flew it around the house. Right? I would jump over sofas and I'd go under the tables and over the tables, over the bed, all around the house. Do you think at that time, in my world, I felt the same about what I was doing as my mother might have or my father might have when they observed me doing it? No, they were not the same. To me, it was all very real. Now just imagine if Swami Narayan did that today. When as I walk out to the elevator, I come with this. If you saw you'd want to have a word with Guru Andhra, wouldn't you? I say it's about time that he started doing his own sermons because... Now, why would that be funny? Actually, it wouldn't be funny, it would be bizarre. You wouldn't stop at funny, you wouldn't call that would be funny, it would be that's bizarre, that's just weird. That's absurd. I don't know what's going on. I mean, he's lost it. He's lost his marbles, you'd say. Now, what is it about it that you don't feel is par with who I am? I'm an adult. I'm a monk. And I'm not supposed to create these imaginary worlds in my mind where I have planes that I fly. I can fly in one and you'd be fine with that. But if I held something up like this and I go, you'd not be happy with that, would you? Because you would know that I'm creating a world in my mind and it's because I'm vexed, right? It's because I'm vexed. I create this artificial world in my mind, this fantasy world in my mind, and then I try to live it out. We don't create anything unless we are vexed. Did you know that? Every creation is the product of a relief from a vexation. That is why they say, what do they say? What is the mother of invention? Necessity. Necessity. We talked about this a few weeks ago. A necessity is a vexation. It's a desire. It's a sense of unfulfillment. So when you have that, you now have to create something if it doesn't exist so that you can experience that. Well, the truth is this, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to say. Every single chitta that arises in your mind, you have to create your entire world every single time. You think it is childish for a kid to push a toy pram. And so when they grow up, you want them to stop doing that because it does not suit their age. And you tell me that if I were to fly this around, that would not suit my age. Well, then you tell me. When you cook up in your own mind, feelings such as desire or lust or anger, resentment, jealousy, greed, any of those things, and then you believe that that actually exists out there. So when you feel love, you feel that it is others who give it to you. When you feel lust, you feel that it is others who give it to you and who excite that feeling in you. And when it's anger, you feel that it's others who transfer that anger to you. They want to make you angry and so on. It's their anger that they transfer to you. Is that not childish then? Now again, you are creating your own world. Every time a chitta is born, a chitta's job is to create a world. See, what does the Buddha say a chitta is? Aramana vijanana lakkhanam chitta. That's in the Pali. What that means is the process. Now I'll put it in very simple terms. Okay? The process of creating a whole world by merely processing an object. That is a chitta. You know the components of a chitta. What are they? Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara and Vijnana. These are the Pali terms. Here's your eye. We place some object in front of it. Your eye brings this through the optic nerve to your brain, and then your brain interfaces with your mind base, in which a citta is created. If you see what a rupa is, if you were to understand, if you were to inspect what a rupa is merely a sight object. Remember, through these nerves, they can only travel electrical impulses. These are myelinated cells. And if you've done any bioscience, these signals, they travel because there's a potential difference. And across that potential difference, these electrical signals, they travel. But this is merely electricity. What color is electricity? What does electricity sound like? What does it taste like? What does it smell like? What does it feel like? Answer. Does electricity have any color or taste or smell or touch, any tactile sensations? No, it has none of those things, because electricity is merely an energy. Electricity is a potential. That's what it is. The potential to do something is energy. That's all energy is. But then you see color. Color could not travel down your optic nerve. Besides, if it were color even, that was traveling down an optic nerve, then the color in the object must reduce every time you keep staring at it. If I gave you a biscuit and you ate it, I understand that it's the biscuit you're eating, because every time you take a bite, the amount of biscuit on the outside diminishes and the amount of biscuit on the inside increases. Yeah? So then we can agree that it's the biscuit that you're eating. But if it's color that you're seeing, does the color reduce of an object as you keep looking at it? If so, if 10 people were looking at it, it would reduce much faster. And 100 people were staring at it, then it would lose its color almost instantly. So look away, don't look at me like that. And in fact, because you're looking at it with both eyes, right? You're doing it twice as fast. So if it was color in the outside world that you were consuming, then that color must reduce in intensity. But it doesn't, because of course color does not exist in the outside world. Therefore, no matter how many people look at an object, there's never going to be a dearth or a lack of color, because color is always going to be created in the mind. So there's an abundance of color, because color is not in the outside world, it's merely in the mind of the observer. So what does the citta do then? This is the citta, this process. In English, we have adopted a few words for this. What were they? To receive, recognize, sorry, what's to? Register, thank you. Register, recognize, respond, and perceive. We don't need to get hung up on the actual terminology, but as long as you get the idea. And in fact, you don't need to know exactly what happens in each of these stages either. You just need to understand this, and that is, this is the process of creating a world. The world in which the citta is king. See, now where's God? Who creates color? Who made this world colorful? Huh? Some divine power? Then? You did. Because color is in your own mind. That's why if you had cataract, You won't be able to see it in full color. If your eye couldn't focus on the fovea, you would still not be able to see it in full color. If you lost your cone cells, and if they stopped working, you wouldn't be able to see things in color. That's not because the color is outside and you can't see it. It's because now, to create color within your mind, the causes are not aligning. Color does not exist outside, ladies and gentlemen. All there is energy. Energy that's vibrating at various frequencies. Your eyes are receptive to those energies, and depending on which frequency they vibrate at, your eye, there are cells at the back of your eye that are receptive to that. That's like the antenna of your television sets. So that's what's going on. So then what is a citta? When presented with an electrical impulse, well, let's say after the brain, it's some kind of mental object, okay? Some kind of mental object. From that point on, the mind's job is to create a whole world out of it. It creates this tapestry of all this rich, vivid information. All you gave was the rupa. Vedana, where did that come from? Let's assume the rupa came from the outside. Where did the Vedana come from? That was home-cooked. Sanya, home-cooked. Sankara, home-cooked. Vijnana, home-cooked. So actually, only 1/5 of this, if any at all, came from the outside. And that didn't come from the outside either. Because this rupa is not this rupa. There's a brain in between. For most at least. There's a brain in between. This rupa is not this rupa. This is pure matter. Thanks to the Buddha, we know that this is Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu. The 5 basic elements. Thanks to the Buddha, I say, because if it weren't for someone who would understand the world in that way, how would we ever be able to say what's on the outside? Because we are limited by our senses, and our senses never really give us what's on the outside world, because there's always an interface jump. The best our senses can do is convert energy to electricity. That's the best that our senses can do. Anyone here who can do more than that? Anyone who can one better that? What do your eyes do? Convert one form of energy to electricity. What does your nose do? Still the same. Convert one form of energy to electricity. What does your tongue do? What do your tactile senses do? What do they do? Still the same, ladies and gentlemen. So then at the brain, it's all what? Current. It's just electricity. So then how does the brain know that one's a sight and the other's a sound? How does the brain know? It's simply because they are dropped in specific parts of the brain. That's why. If we could rewire your brains so that the optic center receives impulses from, say, the olfactory center, right? Then when someone placed an object in front of you, you'd start to smell things. You would. If you don't believe me, come with me. Let's, on behalf of everyone, let's do a bit of a Frankenstein experiment. That's how alone you are. So why do you think that this person sat next to you is actually there? Who's there next to you? What do you know about them? That's why I said, tell me one thing that you know about the person sat next to you. Tell me one thing. What's their complexion? Are they fair or dark? You'll have to give me valid information about the outside world, okay? I'm not asking you how you interpret, right? That's not what I'm saying. It's a bit like this, right? Say we had a translator in the room, okay? Say half of the room spoke Sinhalese and the other half spoke English, okay? You don't speak each other's language. Let's assume that I am the only one in the room who spoke both languages. Now you're at the mercy of this translator, aren't you? Right? So whether there's going to be love or war, peace or war between these two parties is all dependent on whom? My agenda. So say, for example, on this side of the room, you want to convey to the other side that you really like them, that they're very nice people. So what would you say? Now you speak Sinhalese. Right? You'd say, Harima honda minissu. And that's what you want to say, but you don't understand Sinhalese. Now, it's my turn. You all smell. How long do you think this conversation is going to carry on? Before there's going to be a huge altercation in the room and people are just going to start fighting with each other. See, that's because there's no way that you guys can verify the validity of that information because you're completely and entirely dependent on my ability to do that translation. What if I give you the wrong message? Lost in translation. What if that happens? So you're susceptible to that, aren't you? Miscommunication, misinterpretation. Now, isn't the same thing going on inside of you? See, there's an eye that seems to be picking up energy from the outside world, but in between your eye, there's a brain. Now you're entirely dependent on the brain to translate that information in a way that makes sense to the mind, but that's the thing, folks. It translates it in a way that makes sense to the mind, not the way it was. So it's never what's on the outside you will ever see. So, if it was God who created this world, well, I'm happy about that, but you've never seen His creation. You've never seen what the world outside is like, because you always see with your minds. And your eyes, your brains, the nerves in between, they always keep translating what's on the outside to a language that your mind understands. That's not what God said. That's not what God said. You create your own worlds. Once again, you're alone. So once again I ask you, tell me one thing you know about the person sat next to you. What do they sound like? Would you like me to ask them to say something and then you can tell me what their voice sounds like? Is it crisp? Is it sharp? Is it deep? Do they have like a shrill voice or high-pitched voice? What does it sound like? What is the truth? The truth is actually they're mute. The truth is they don't sound like anything because sound does not exist in the outside world. So what are your vocal cords doing right now? What's mine doing right now? My vocal cords and your ears, your eardrums, what are they doing right now? They're vibrating to the same frequency. That's the part you and I are playing right now. There's no sound in between you and I. Think about this for a second. I'm trying to drill this down to one point, and that is you're alone. You create this whole world in your mind. But then, out of ignorance, you believe that all these people, all these things, all these objects that you perceive are actually out there. And that makes you fall in love with the world. Because you tell yourself, this world is so colorful. Oh, I wouldn't want to go blind because this world is so colorful. Look at all these rich colors. Just look at the flower arrangement for a second. How colorful it is. Don't you like it? Don't you want to take it home with you? Well, one day you'll say the same about a girl or a boy. Look at how pretty she is. Look at how handsome he is. Can I take her home, Mummy? You'll ask your mother. You'll ask your father. All because you think this creation of yours is actually out there. But the truth is you cook up your own world. I can talk to you on this topic for days because there's so much ground we can cover with this simple thing alone. In fact, I can even explain to you how sins happen in your mind. Sin. And how merits happen in your mind. And why it doesn't happen in the mind of an arahant. Because it's all you cooking up stuff in your own mind. It's nothing to do with the outside world. Theft, for example. We'll come to that. Say when you have an affair with someone, right? You have a crush on someone, let's say. Not an affair, you have a crush on someone, and your mother or father doesn't approve of it. Is it enough for them to say, stop it? No more from here on. What would you normally do? Okay. We'll see about that. And then you'll still continue that anyway. That's why the first thing that's important for us to do is, rather than saying stop it, help them understand what it is. That's the best remedy, I tell you. If you want someone to quit smoking, don't tell them to quit smoking. Show them what it does to them. Help them understand what smoking actually is. Help them understand that. If your child is addicted to pornography, you may not know unless you ask. Maybe they might tell you, maybe they may not. If your child is addicted to watching TV or playing computer games, whatever, as a mature parent, my advice to you, ladies and gentlemen, is not to simply say, stop it, not under my watch. That alone is not going to do it, because today there's plenty and more ways of doing things behind your back. Gone are the days where you can put them under lock and key and control them in that way. Physical safety is no longer actual safety. You put a password on your router, tomorrow your child will tell you what it is. And then they'll suggest, don't put passwords like that, put stronger passwords. Here's one. And they'll write one on a piece of paper and give it to you. Some parents will not even think, yeah, actually that's a good one, I'll put that one on. The next generation is always smarter in that way. In that way they are smarter. Relieve themselves from vexation, in that way they are smarter. Not vexing in the first place, oh no. In that way they are so dumb. With every generation that is to come, they're just going to keep getting dumber and dumber and dumber and dumber. So much so that our grandfathers, our great-grandfathers, our ancestors, they were so wise, ladies and gentlemen. They were so wise. That's why we must not undermine our elders, our adults, because they have much more wisdom than we do. One, they have experience on their hands. That's one. But that's them having learned things the wrong way. They made the mistake and they learned. But at the same time, they had a mindset, they had a mentality, they had values, virtues, and things like that, which is kind of lost really on newer generations, because we are far more knowledge-oriented. I think I've said this to you the other day. The more this world goes after knowledge, the less there is wisdom in this world. Because these two things, they are on two sides of a scale. Where there is more knowledge, there is less wisdom. Where there is more wisdom, there's less knowledge. Why so? When there's wisdom, you understand that everything is the same. All is one. If all is one, why do you need to go figure out the intricacies of everything? But when the mind does not accept that all is one, now the mind distinguishes and discriminates between all these little things. And when there are so many things in this world, there's so much to know about them, isn't there? Don't you understand that? If all is one, then all you need to know is about that one. But if there's many, then you could specialize in each and every one of them. That's why I say, the more knowledge-oriented the world is, the less wisdom there's going to be. The more wisdom there is, the less knowledge the world will be dependent on. So now we're a knowledge-driven world. Information, data, information technology. What does that tell you? That's how now, it's almost like knowledge has become our bread and butter. It's not, what you know is kind of like your value. If you don't know much, people don't care about you anymore. Your credentials after your name is much more important than whether you're a good person or whether you're a good human being. Isn't it? It's become that. How much do parents actually talk to children about being good versus being educated? The whole drive has now shifted towards that, in that direction. Getting a better education is far more important, apparently, than being more thoughtful, kind, generous, gentle, tolerant, patient. So today we have a lot of knowledge at the risk of, and that is, we're at our own peril. We have sacrificed on the altar of knowledge our wisdom. Anyhow, I digress. So, where were we? Yeah, if you ask me a question, then something will start coming, and then I don't know where we'll end up. Where were we? Creating your own world, something along those lines. What was the precise point? Does anyone remember we were talking about? Yes, but that was the overall theme. What was the point? Yes, that was what we were talking about. So, right now, the only two things that are actually happening in this physical world is a vibration here and a vibration in your eardrums. In the medium between you and I, which is the air, there's actually no sound at all. It's silent. So then how come you hear my voice? Those vibrations reach your ear in this instance, not the eye, of course. And then there's the nerve, there's a system there in your ear that translates vibrational energy to, once again, the only option we have. What is it? Electrical energy. That's the only option we have. That's how our bodies are constructed. Whatever comes to your senses has to be translated to electrical energy before the brain is ready to receive it. Yes? So the only inputs then that's going into your brain, besides of course there may be some chemical reactions and all sorts of things going on, but the only inputs from your senses to your brain has to come in what form? Electrical energy. See, if it's only electrical energy your brain is prepared to accept, what color are we talking about? What sounds are we talking about? What smells are we talking about? None of those are electrical energy signals. So all that information is lost. So like I was doing that translation between these two groups in the room, and it was my own will, what I wanted to translate. Right? And if you said something, I could do the same to the other room. What do you want to tell them? So they said, you smell. Okay. Katailu. Apparently you guys are ugly. So you see, soon enough what's going to happen? The ugly ones and the smelling ones, what are they going to do? They're going to fight each other. Whose fault is that now? It's my fault. Actually, if we go one step further, it's your fault for trusting me. It's your fault for not recognizing the fact that it may not be exactly what was uttered by the other half. There was a translator. So plenty can get lost in translation. What do you think is going on here then? How do you know with any level of certainty that what you experience as sight is actually what's going on out there. In which case, if it's through your 5 senses you read the world, tell me one thing you know for sure about the outside world. Tell me one thing you know for certain about the outside world. What does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? What does it feel like? Huh? What does it sound like? Can you tell me anything else about the world? Because you're limited to your 5 senses. So if your 5 senses are no longer reliable, what can you tell me with any level of reliability about what's on the outside world? What? Absolutely nothing. So then when you experience the world in the way you do, where is that world cooked up? In the mind. That's why I say this process is you creating your own world. You are a resident of this world, ladies and gentlemen. This is the only world in which you hold citizenship. So you can forget your dual nationalities and your dual citizenships and all that malarkey. None of that really exists. This is the only world in which you reside. And even still, you're not a permanent resident. Because this Citta will only last the lifetime of a Citta. The moment this passes away, now the mind base creates another one. And then another one. And then another one. The problem is in each of these Chittas, aside to what this process does, there's also another process. That's called the defilement process. That's the process that the Buddha gives us instruction and advice and the Noble Eightfold Path so that we can seize that process. This is okay, we can deal with this. As long as you understand that you're simply creating your own world, right? And as long as you're not suffering, that's it. No big deal. Right? It's fine. It doesn't have to be that you see what's out there. Because, let's assume that you actually saw what was out there. Now what? What's changed? You got a free lunch out of it? No, nothing's changed. You understand what I'm saying? Say, for example, everything in the world is purple. Right? But as the eye and the brain and all these things in the middle start working on it, all those signals get to color. Okay, so you have red and blue and yellow and green and orange and all these colors that are created in the world, in your mind. But the only color that exists outside, as per our example, is purple, right? Okay, so let's assume then that we were somehow able to wave a magic wand or something and all of a sudden you start to see the purple that's in the outside world without actually seeing the colors that your mind creates, for instance. Okay, so what's changed now? All this while you were seeing green, now you see purple. What's changed? Nothing's changed, right? So the point being then, this is not the problem. This is not the problem. The problem that you create this world in your mind is not the problem. Sorry, that didn't come out right. The fact that you create your own world is not the problem. The problem is this. This whole thing runs on a platform. This is it's called the mind base. This is the mind, right? This is the base. This whole thing runs on a platform that is ignorant. Because it's ignorant, here's what happens. The mind, which runs this process, thinks that actually what I'm seeing is the world on the outside, because it does not know what you have just figured out. It does not know that. So now I'm talking about the ignorant mind. Okay, it doesn't know that. So if it doesn't know that, then when the mind wishes to experience touch, for instance, and if the mind thinks that that touch exists on the outside world, then what would the mind want to do? Reach out and grab it. So the mind will send a command to the body, which it seems to have control over, and says, right, reach out and grab it because I want to experience that touch, because that touch exists out there. Have you never wondered why your eyes face this way? Why don't they face the other way? Why do they point outwardly and not inwardly? There's a reason for that. Actually, there's a very, very serious reason for that, ladies and gentlemen. It's evidence that you got it completely wrong. When you started your journey in samsara, you were bonkers, which means crazy. You know what? Your mind thought that what you were seeing were the objects in the outside world. That being the case, which way should your eyes face? They should point outwards. And so since then, your mind has always been convinced that what I am seeing is what's on the outside. Remember, like you, when you want to watch whatever channels you want to watch, you turn your dish the way you want it, right? You look at what the satellites are, right, where they are up in the sky, right? And then you turn and you adjust your satellite or your antennas, yeah? In the same way, your mind, when it designed your body, okay, when it made this model into which the nutrition that you took ever since you came into your mother's womb, the model was always there. So all the nutrition had to do was just come and fill in the gaps. That's the way it works. Your mind created this form. That's why some are born handicapped. The mind created that. That's why some are born blind. The mind created that. It was all because of karma. Because what the mind thinks is what happens. Once again, I'm going on many tracks right now. I'll try and curb myself from meandering too much into other territory. But the essence of this is this. The other day I asked you, why are some of you male and others female? What do you think was male, female first, the body or the mind? The mind was. Because there are certain characteristics the mind should adhere to, certain ways in which the mind must think, that creates matter and then accumulates that matter, aggregates that matter to give rise to this form that you are. So the mind creates all that. So it's not just this world that the mind creates. You don't know anything that you don't think. I gave you the example of the car earlier. I said, your car. It was when I said those words, your car came into existence. Until then, where was your car? Don't tell me in the garage. No, it was not in the car park. I'm asking about your car. Not the car. So I want you to understand this properly. I'm asking about your car. Okay? By your car, I don't mean the car that you paid money for and bought from the showroom. That's not what I mean by your car. I mean the car in your world. Where was that? Until I uttered the words car. It did not exist. It did not exist. There was a physical object, yes, I agree. There was a car. Conventionally, we will also agree that that is your car. That's a convention. But I mean in real terms. Because you are merely your thought in this moment. Your past is not you. Your future is not you. You are merely your present moment. So in this moment, if what you're thinking is pen, where's the car? So are you the proud owner of a car? I'm asking about you right now. Right now. Are you the proud owner of a car? Okay, if you are, what about a house? If this is your Citta, can you have a car and on top of that a house as well? No, what about your spouse then? Oh wait, she's up here. Remember, each Citta can only take one object out at once. Every Citta. I'm not pausing because it's a distraction. I'm only pausing because when you walk in front of the camera, then people won't be able to see this. So these parts get edited out of the sermon. That's why. But if anyone has to leave, it's okay. Okay, I'm not pausing because it's a distraction. Just letting you know. Each chitta can only take one object at once. Okay? All agree with me on that one? Right? You can't think of two things at once. When I ask you the question, who are you? If you can't tell me that you are your past chitta, because that's already passed away. If you're telling me you are your past chitta, then I have to ask you, okay, show me evidence, present it to me. And you'd have nothing to show for it, because it's already passed away. If you're going to tell me I'm the chitta that's about to arrive, that cannot be true either, because that hasn't arisen yet. So the only thing you can present as saying, here's who I am, is what? This present chitta. It's a bit like this. If I ever got stopped by the police, right, I would only be able to present to them my monk's identity card, not the one that I had from my lay time. Because that's already passed away. So my identity now is that I'm a monk, right? God forbid, let's assume that I one day decide to ordain. Sorry, see, I can't even even by mistake, I can't say that. Let's assume that one day I choose to disrobe and go back to a lay life. That day would never come, but let's just assume. Then what would happen to my monk's identity card? Could I use it? No. Then that has to be destroyed or handed in or whatever, right? And then I'd have again another identity card. Would that be the same as this one? No. In the same way, now think about chittas. Right? So now carry that, what you understood from that analogy, back to the chitta world. This is the chitta you have right now. This chitta is gone. This chitta hasn't arrived yet. So this is the only chitta that is present. Each chitta can only take one object at once. Yeah? Okay, so when you're thinking about your car, when you tell me you're the proud owner of a car, what about the house then? Here's what you're going to have to say. Wait, Swaminatha. Right? That has to pass away. Right? So you're going to put the car aside, and then you create another chitta on which now you have the house. What happened to the car? What happened to the car? Oh, wait. Get the car back. Right. So, away with the house chitta. Now back to the... I can't draw a car. This is a car, okay? Now it's a car. What happened to the house then? So where's your son? What about all your qualifications? All those ornaments that you have? What about the necklace around your neck? And your earrings? What about those lands that you have bought? And you're a proud landowner. See, when you are the owner of one, actually you're not even an owner. You can only think of one object at once. When you're thinking about one object, every other object in this world does not exist. Because, let's assume for your birthday, I got you a car. Okay? In fact, I come and ask you the previous day, what's your favorite model? What's your favorite weight? What's your favorite model? You tell me you want a Bugatti. Right? So, me being the richest man in the world, I go buy a Bugatti. And I've bought it, I've parked it outside. Now, in my mind, whose car is it? I've bought it for you. So, whose car is it now? It's yours, right? Because all I have to do is just hand the keys over. Oh, let's say I've actually gone and hung the key on your key rack. So it's the car's now yours and the key's also yours. So now that in my mind I've given the car to you, do I have to also, is it okay if I don't tell you about it? I choose not to tell you about it. I've given you the car. I've also handed the keys, not handed the keys, but I've hung the key. But I choose not to tell you about it. Okay? So that being the premise of this question, here's my question to you. Are you the proud owner of a Bugatti? Why not? Because you don't know about it. Now we come to the pertinent point. Because you don't, say it out loud, you don't know about it. By which what you mean is what you don't know, you don't know. You don't have, right? So what is to know then? What is to know? You say it's to be in my memory. You can't say that. Because what's in your memory is not available to you right now. What you have right now is what you have right now. That in the memory is like the car that's parked outside and you don't know about it. So would you rather me keep quiet about it, or do you really want me to tell you as well? Wouldn't you want me to tell you about it? If it's for your birthday, wouldn't you want me to tell you about it? Hey, I've got you a car. It's a Bugatti. It's parked outside. It's yours. Isn't that when you begin to feel, I'm a proud car owner? That's when you begin to feel that. Meaning, here's what happens. The moment I tell you that, a Citta is born, and in that Citta, you have a Bugatti. But you still had the car physically. Before I told you about it, the car was still yours. The key was in the key rack. And the car was parked outside your lawn. So technically, it's still your car. But you don't have the feeling of I'm a proud Bugatti owner. Why not? Because you didn't think about it. What does that tell you then? You only have what you think. Meaning, your whole world is just your thought in the present moment. What you don't think simply does not exist in your world. So what exists in your world then? Just what you think. So in your world, if you think mango tree, right? The size of your world is what now? The size of a mango tree. That's it. What about the bird that's perched on the mango tree? Not until you think about it does it come into your world. It's there in the physical world, but it's not part of your world. You might say, but I'm going to think about it in my next Citta. That's a whole new Citta. That's not you. That's a whole new Citta. So when that Citta thinks about the bird on the tree, it's not thinking about the tree or the fruit on the tree. So that's now gone. Yes, it will go into memory. You can say that it's gone to memory. Yes, it will go into memory. But it's going to memory doesn't mean that it's yours. It doesn't mean that it's you. It's just a resource, a data resource. That's all it is. That's not you. Do you see how isolated you are? This is your island. That's it. You are just lost on an island. There are no, there are no neighboring islands. They're yet to be discovered. The island you were on before that, you already sailed, and now it's not within sight. This is the only island on which you are. And even that is not yours. Even that is not yours, because if it's yours, keep it forever and show me. Be in command, be in control and show me. If it's yours. Make it last for as long as you want and show me. If it's yours. When we say something's ours, we have this feeling that it has to be somehow in our control in some way, right? That's why you say, she's my wife. Meaning she wouldn't... hot topic. It's my car. Meaning you can drive it whenever you want. And anyone else has to ask you. That's why you say it's my car. So I can park it where I want, I can drive it when I want. Yeah? So then, if this is your Citta, you do the same with this and show me that. Get it to last as long as you want it. Try it if you can and show me. Okay, think about car. Think about your car and keep thinking about it. Don't think about anything else until I say so. Right? I'll give you 5 minutes. Think about nothing but the car, because it's your Citta, right? This is your Citta. Like your car, you should be able to control. You should be able to drive, pull up, park, reverse, whenever you want. That's why you say it's your car. Yes? Okay, well, if this is your Citta, then you should be in command. Yeah? All right, so then I ask you, I plead to you, right, this Citta that is yours, which thinks about a car, think about the car. Okay, put aside 5 minutes, 10 seconds, think about nothing but the car. Shall we start 10 seconds? Okay, start now. Monkey. Giraffe. Apples. What are you doing? I thought you were in control. Why think about monkeys? I asked you to think about the car. So who's in control then? Who's in control? No one is in control, ladies and gentlemen. No one is in control. I'll tell you what's in control. The phenomenon of cause and effect is in control. We are all mere slaves. When I say we are mere slaves, I don't mean we as selves who are in slaves to it. These Chittas are what exist, and they are mere slaves to the phenomenon of cause and effect. This Citta is thinking about a car right now because there are causes surrounding it to think about the car, in the same way that when I said the word monkey, you start thinking about monkeys. You can't help it. If you know what a monkey is, you can't help not think about it. When I say the word sun, are you thinking about the moon? But the moment I said, are you thinking about the moon? What are you thinking about now? The sun? See? Now what control do you have then? I say the word sun. What are you thinking about? I say S-O-N, sun. See? It changed, just like that. So who's in control then? That's why the good lady asked earlier, so how do we stop that? That's not the part to stop. Because that you cannot stop. Because it's not you who's doing it to stop. Do you get that? To stop something, who must be the one who's doing it? If you're the one who's going to stop something, who's the one who should be doing it? You're the one who's got to be doing it. But if you're not the one who's doing it, is that something you could stop? I say monkey, you think monkey. Do you do it deliberately, or is it almost like it happens automatically? It just happens, right? So if it just happens, you can't stop that. The Buddha is not going to come into this world to say, to advise us to stop something that we are not doing in the first place. Do you think the Buddha is ever going to say, stop raining? Hey, stop raining. Do you think the Buddha is ever going to say that? Why not? Because it's not you who reigns. It just rains. Right? So the Buddha, who teaches us cause and effect, would not ask you to do something that you are not doing in the first place. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is not the process that you need to stop here. It's the process that runs alongside that, which is what is called the defilement process, or the defiling process, if you like. It's the process that sets expectations on this, that this should happen in a certain way, which is all based on the fact that what you are seeing is what's on the outside world, ignorance, and that somehow you can set expectations on these things, and that you are in control and you are in command. That is the ignorance that minds are cursed with. And because that ignorance lays dormant or active in the mind base, every Citta that is born with an expectation. That's why when I say monkey, if you want to keep thinking donkey, you don't like me saying monkey. If you're trying it's like when people tend to meditate, right? We see this a lot. We don't do this kind of thing at our monastery because we don't train people to think about one thing. Because it's not they who think. You think whatever object comes to your mind, because that's what a Citta does. That's like saying, don't sneeze. I dare you not to sneeze. I mean, do you do it deliberately? If something gets you in your nose, do you have any other option but to sneeze? Is it fair for me to set down rules and regulations against coughing, for instance? That would be absurd, right? So in the same way, our objective when we talk about meditation is not to think about specific things and not think about anything else. It's not about focusing on the thought object. It's about this. It's about understanding how the thought process works. Because if you don't understand that, not understanding that is ignorance. A lack of understanding of how the thought process works is ignorance. And when one doesn't understand how the mind works, what they tend to do is, actually it's not they who tend to do it. Again, the same. It happens. Expectation happens. And then you know what happens after that. When expectations happen, an expectation is merely another word for a vexation. When an expectation happens, now you're at risk. You will either fall one or the other side. It's like being on the fence. If you like to experience what's going on, then you have pleasure, the experience of pleasure. But if you want to think, say you're meditating, and you want to think about the Buddha, let's say, perfectly safe object, let's say you want to think about the Buddha. So as you're thinking about the Buddha, someone sneezes. Another one of the members sneeze. Now, what happens? Can you still keep thinking about the Buddha? At least for a moment, what is the thought that goes through your mind? A sneeze. If you had an expectation at that point, I only want to think Buddha. I don't want the sneezes. I just want to think about Buddha. What happens then? Now you have lost your Buddha. That's what happens. Because now you have tried to become the master. You have tried to be in control. To try to be in control is when you give up your Buddha. To be Buddha is to be without expectation. To be Buddha is to give in. To be Buddha is to surrender, is to accept. I love it when in the Bible they say, surrender to God. So true. That's exactly what you should do. Surrender. If Vipaka is God, surrender to Vipaka. In other words, while Vipaka process is going on here, don't you be the one who stands aside and says, no, that's not what I want. I have my own things that I want. I don't like this one. I want something else. What happens then? You haven't surrendered. Because you haven't surrendered, God has one agenda, you have another. Now there's a conflict. Whenever there's a conflict, who wins? Always God. In other words, always Vipaka, because Vipaka is what's always there. You can never change that part. You know which part I'm talking about? There's lots of scribbles on the board. Here's the Vipaka part. This is all natural. This is not the part that I want you to stop. Don't even try to. It's pointless. Don't even try to stop it. Whenever you visit the monastery and you want to engage in meditation, we would never advise you to not think about something and think about something else. So, there are no forbidden thoughts. You're not supposed to think about X, only think about Y. We never do that. Here's what we do. Whatever thought process you have going on, alongside that, based on ignorance, you have another thing going on here. That's based on ignorance, and that's called expectations. When you have these expectations, now you check each of those thoughts that arise and pass away against this expectation. This is the agenda. This is God's agenda, or the natural order of things, natural phenomenon. And this is based on ignorance and attachment. So constantly you're measuring this up with this. This becomes your yardstick to measure your vipaka. Whether it's good, whether it's bad. And so this becomes the judge. That is the cause of your misery. This part, not this part. If this is God, this is the demon. This is the demon. This is the demon that you must slay. Why does this happen? Because you believe that you are in control. So if something's in control, you must always do your checks and balances. Make sure it's only doing what you want it to do. Like when you feel like you're in control of your children, aren't you always frustrated about one thing or the other? Either they're not having their meals on time, or they're not doing their homework on time, or they're not getting enough sleep, they're not going to bed on time, right? Something or the other is always wrong. Or they're associating with the bad people, right? They're spending far too much time on the computer, far too much time on Facebook. These are problems you have only about your child. You don't have these problems about the child next door, do you? Why not? Because you're not in control over them. You're only in control over your own child, or at least you think you do. And that's what's going on here. You think you're in control of this vipaka process, but it's not you who's in control. Cause and effect is the phenomenon that's in control of this, not you. This is what creates your sense of you. This is what creates your sense of self. This is you. Or at least the sense of you, the sense of self. And once that's there, you constantly check whether these vipakas are the ones you want to have. That's why when you're sat down for meditation and you only want to think about the Buddha, but someone sneezes, tell me where the conflict occurs. Who's responsible for that conflict of mind? Who's responsible for that Buddha being lost in that moment? This part or this part? This part. It's this part. So then here's what we actually need to do when we meditate, ladies and gentlemen. Here's what real meditation is in the way that I understand it. I'm not suggesting that this is the only way one must meditate or one could meditate, but this is the way that I do it, and this is the way that works for me. I have accepted that the vipaka world is the vipaka world. I am not in control. Because in this game, victory is achieved by accepting defeat. That is what victory is in our world. We accept defeat. Because once you accept defeat, there's no battle anymore. What's the point of not accepting defeat but always being in battle? How can you say that is victory? If it's victory, there has to be no fight, right? Well, there's two ways you can do that. Either get this to always do what you want it to do, but even still you have to keep checking. Or just give up. Give up. And you're victorious. So as the question came from the audience, so what must you do then? How do you stop it? Tell me, which one of these must you stop? The one on the right or the one on the left? It's the one on the left. Or rather, your right, my left. This is the part that we need to stop. This arises because of your lack of understanding about this. That's why I say, remember I gave you the example of if your child has a crush on someone that you don't approve of. There's no point saying stop, 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 stop. See, that's what this is doing as well. Stop, 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 stop. There's no stopping. There's only ever conflict, only ever friction. Here's what we do with the Dhamma. we explain to the mind what this is. This is a vipaka. There's no being in control over this because this is merely cause and effect. And guess what? So is this. So is this. If this is driven by cause and effect, so is this driven by cause and effect. Because all there exists in this world is all driven by the phenomenon of cause and effect. Just because you think it's you who's doing it, and you are in control and you are in command, it is not true. Even the mere feeling, this sensation, this sense that you are a self itself is a creation of the phenomenon of cause and effect. That's not you doing it, it happens. So you don't be, you happen. You understand the difference? When you say, I am, you don't am, you just happen. You happen because there are causes that make you happen. What are those causes? The root cause is attachment, or the immediate cause is attachment, and the root cause is ignorance. Ignorance of what? Ignorance of what? What I just explained to you. What I just explained to you. Because once you start to accept that this is the state of affairs, this is how the world is, I'm not in control. Accepting defeat is victory. And all this does is cause vexation. Remember the other day we did a sermon called I Am Suffering? Now do you see where suffering is? Where's the suffering part? This. This is where I am. It's not suffering. The other day I was talking to sometimes when people walk up to us, they introduce themselves and they say, Swaminatha, I'm a Christian. I don't know what they intend by saying that, but I then saying, okay, so I must be careful as to what so I don't start talking about the Buddha and sort of, but we just delve into the workings of the mind. So sometimes that's how people introduce themselves, and that's perfectly fine. It just gives me more data. It's all good. Then I've got more stuff to think around and how to work with them. I gave them this thing to think about. See whether you agree with me on this. So I said, sir, according to the Bible, was it not God who created man? He said, yes, God created man. So he created you as well? Absolutely. Wonderful. I asked him, do you believe that God is imperfect? He said, blasphemy. I said, yes. Yes, of course it would be. To say that God was imperfect would be blasphemy. So God has to be perfect. And God is perfect. So if God is perfect, anything that is a creation of something that is perfect has to also be what? Perfect. Yeah? Okay. So then, if God created you, would He not have made you perfect? I said, yes, has to be, according to your argument, it has to be, Venerable Sir. I said, yes, has to be, because God's perfect, so His creations have to be perfect. So, do you like to be generally happy or sad? He said, I like to be happy. And if you're God's child, and if you're God's creation, what do you think God would want you to be? Happy or sad? He said, happy. So if God created a perfect creation, and if He wants His creations to be happy, and the creation itself also wants to be happy, do you ever think that God would have created you with sorrow, grief, fear, anger, and those emotions in your mind? I said, oh, no. Make a valid point. I said, well, yes. So when God created you in all His perfection, He created the perfect mind, a mind that is happy. God never created sorrow, anger, fear, jealousy, greed, sadness, none of these things. So then he asks me another question. I get the point, Swaminatha, but then how come I am sad? I thought it was God who made me sad. I thought it was God who brings me pain and grief and sometimes takes away the people that I love to test me somehow. Why does God put these negative emotions in my mind? I don't like to cry all night, but it happens. I don't like to be angry, but it happens. Why does God do that? I say, no, sir, it's not God who does that. God made you perfect because He's perfect, so all His creations have to be perfect. Anything less than perfect, and you would have to take away the title of God is perfect. Yeah? If anything's perfect, then everything He touches, anything He creates has to also be perfect. So then I said, well, my dear man, God created you in all His perfection as a perfect mind. But what do? You don't surrender to God. You haven't accepted God. You haven't accepted His agenda for you. And so you have started setting expectations. Because of your expectations, now you are in conflict. You feel friction. You feel all these negative emotions and sentiments in your mind, and how dare you go to the church, look up at the Holy Christ on the cross and say, why do you do this to me? That, sir, is blasphemy. To accuse God of your own wrongdoings, of your fears, of your sorrows, and of your misery. Because God never created you like that. He made you perfect. I rest my peace. So whether you come to me as a Christian, or a Hindu, or a Muslim, or a Buddhist, or an atheist, ladies and gentlemen, all I have to present to you is the science of the mind. This is how the mind works. To be ignorant of that is to put yourself into peril. Is to create hell for yourself. If you don't accept heaven, this is heaven. If you don't accept heaven, this is God's idea for you. This is God's plan for you. If you don't accept heaven, you have just created hell for yourself. Stop doing that. Once you stop doing that, once you surrender to God, you can walk through the gates of what? Heaven. Bow down your head and accept your vipaka. Accept your vipaka gracefully. Whatever rupa comes into your mind, just see that and be okay with that. Don't have an affection or an affliction towards either of those. Or don't have either of those feelings towards that. Don't have a conflict in your mind. This expectation is the killer. Your expectation is your hell. So if you can learn to stop doing that, then you're in the promised land. You're with God. So then before the gentleman left, I asked him one further question. I said, sir, now you've come to me because you have a problem, right? He said, yes. So I said, now God wants you to be happy. You've just admitted that. Yes, I have Swami Maharaj. God wants me to be happy. Okay. Well then, sir, I have a way to help you understand how to stop doing this part, this setting expectations. I have a teaching, I have a philosophy, and I'm happy to share that with you. By understanding which, you can stop this fight, this struggle with God, and just accept Him and surrender to Him. Do you think God would rather not have you listen to it? Or do you think God would be quite happy for you to listen to that teaching? The teaching that helps you to walk through the gates of heaven and to rejoin Him and to be back with Him. Do you think if God was here now, He would forbid you from listening to what I'm about to explain to you? Or do you think, that's a good man, sit down with him and learn everything he's got to say? What do you think God would tell you? He said, Swami Maharaj, I'm all ears. Now, where here did I talk about religion? During this discourse, at which point did I talk about a religion? See, this is the thing, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we need to understand. The Buddha in some people's eyes might be a religious leader. Jesus Christ in some people's minds might be a religious leader. And various other great teachers of philosophy who've come and gone. They all came into this world to teach mankind how to surrender, how to accept, how to be happy within themselves. But in our eagerness to separate and divide and discriminate, in our eagerness to make something my own, when Jesus did the Sermon on the Mount, some people went there and said, He's our God. No one else walk up this way and listen to Him. When the Buddha gave the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, some people walked up and said, He's our God. He's our teacher. No one else come this way, only for Buddhists. Which went completely and entirely against what both of those teachers actually taught. Actually, the very essence of their teaching was, do that and you shall suffer. Do what? Separate, divide, discriminate, and you shall suffer. Because that is the very foundation of suffering. That is what they taught. So the very thing they were advising against, that's what people want to do because they were ignorant. Now, who are you a follower of? Jesus Christ or the Buddha? There you go. See, you have even lost your religious identity. That's what happens when you come to these sermons on Sunday mornings. You used to be a proud Christian, you used to be a proud Muslim, a proud Buddhist, and you come along and you realize, I'm not even a Buddhist anymore. What does it mean to be a Buddhist? If that's again something you use to separate yourself and identify yourself versus everyone else, there's nothing Buddhist about you. Simple as that. There's nothing Buddhist about you. Do you understand what I'm saying, folks? This is the truth. The truth always unites. A lie always divides. So if you feel that you are somehow different, separate to others around you, to other people around you, to other communities around you, then it cannot be the truth that you have understood or comprehended. It has to be a lie. So let go of that. It's a lie. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up and realize the truth. There can only be one version of the truth. And that is what you have learned today. You don't have to take anything I say because I say so. That's the first thing I say. I was never like that, and I don't expect any of you to be the same either. Don't take anything at face value. Question. Question in your own minds. If it doesn't make sense, go and speak to someone. Speak to Swami Nuhanse. That's why we have created these opportunities at the monastery. Talk to them. If this doesn't make sense, ask questions and check your understanding. Clarify. Verify. That's why I always say, in your labs of life, you will find the answers. You'll be able to verify this information. Do that. Ever since you've been listening to the sermons, you ask yourself whether when you see a man on the street, you still identify yourself as a rich man, a wealthy man, a Muslim, a Christian, and that man is somehow poor, he's a beggar, he must probably someone from another religion. Is that what's been going on in your mind, or have you been able to see past that and have begun to realize they're minds, that's what they are. And everything that they are going through right now, this is vipaka. That's what it is. There are no individuals or individualities. All there is vipaka and minds and bodies. That's what's going on. See, that understanding has simply helped you to unify the world. That's what we want. So, Puttā Matti, Dhanan Matti. Iti, what's the word? Balo vihanjati. Bala is a fool. Only a fool thinks that I have sons, I have family, I have wealth, I have property, I have all this, that and the other. But you only know that something exists when it is the object of a single chitta. When that chitta passes away, you have no idea about anything else in this world. Right? When you're thinking about your house, the house is all you think of. You can't even think about your car or the furniture in the house. Only one object at once. That being the case, you are alone. If you don't have even yourself for yourself, even yourself is merely a creation of the mind. All there is vipaka. Vipaka in a chitta is merely the creation or the understanding, the cognition of a mental object. That's all there is and that's all there exists. So you are very much alone. This is all you are. In the next moment, another one of these. In the moment after that, another one of these. And the moment after that, another one of these. All together? Is it all together? No, only one at an instant. Only one at a time. So if all this is all you are, then what is your net worth? Should we get you up on Forbes magazine? What's your net worth? It's not a net worth. You are not worth, ladies and gentlemen. This is pure freedom. This is bliss. Having no expectations, that is bliss. No fights. No urges. No, I want to be there when I have to be here. None of those things. No, can I have a bit of that, but she won't let me have it. None of those. Freedom. Pure bliss. This is what I'm talking about. That is your Buddhaness. Buddha is to be free of expectations. That's what it is. And that's what we have come here to do. So help each other in that process. Now you see, sabbe satta bhavantu sukhitatta, or siru prana bhuten keri hitanu kampiyo katitu kara. Or sabba sattesu metta sahagatena cetasang viharanang samadhyam. All of this is first to understand that all beings are merely chittas that arise and pass away. What is it that brings them conflict? What is it that brings them fear, grief, and sorrow? This. So, if you truly love someone, what must you help them do? Is it to buy them a box of chocolates? If you bought them a box of chocolates, how long will they have it? Only in the moment they think of it. So you buy them a box of chocolates and a bouquet of flowers. Can they have both at once? No. When they have one, they're longing for the other. When they have the other, they're longing for the other. So already you have put them in a conundrum. Which one should I think about? That's the thing. That's what I mean. What is true, pure, selfless love. Selfless love is to help someone become selfless. That is what selfless love is. Selfish love, on the other hand, is to keep their self. You also have a self, and then what do I give this person so that I can get something out of them? Even if it's a mere smile or a thank you, or a nod of acknowledgement, a bit of recognition. That's selfish love. Well, the world only knows how to do selfish love. Whereas you, on the other hand, now you know how to do selfless love. Where does that start then? Where does selfless love start? By loving thy neighbour, of course. What do I mean then by loving thy neighbour? This is your chitta right now. It's still on a mind base which has ignorance. If this chitta doesn't do anything to fix that situation, tell me about the next chitta that's going to arise. it's also going to arise having experienced a sense of self. So this is its neighbor, right? Well, then if you love thy neighbor, what must you do? In the present moment, work on your mind base. Rid attachment, rid ignorance, such that this becomes clean and pure of defilements. At such point, when your neighbor arrives, what happens then? Free of suffering. Love thy neighbor. Indeed, love thy neighbor. So once you love this neighbor, you can love the other neighbors as well. So what if you lived in the Himalayas in isolation? Right? Or you live in a cave and there's no one else then. And then Jesus comes and says, love thy neighbor. Oops. So what, you have to bring someone else and keep them in your hut? Or do you start loving the pets, or the birds and the bees, and the beasts? No. You can still love thy neighbor. So who's an arahant then? Huh? Who's an arahant? Someone who has fully, completely, entirely, comprehensively learned to love thy neighbor. Love thy neighbor. Will you all do that from here on? Will you like that? Love thy neighbor? Good. Then put a board outside your house saying, from here on I will love my neighbors. And the whole street will be deserted. Okay? Wonderful. Let's leave it there for today then. So as a reminder, we have Guru Hamaru's sermon from next Sunday. That's the 23rd. That's at 2:30 at the monastery. For those who wish to join that, if you're here in the morning, we've planned it so that there's still enough time for you to head back to the monastery, and not head back for me, but head there for you. That's your own wrongdoing. I can't help you with that. But it will also be streamed the following Monday, in case you're not able to make it there, or if you're not able to make it here because you want to get there, that's perfectly fine. Whatever way you want to do it, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, that's why I suggested, why don't you commit one day a week to your spiritual practice? That's all I'm asking for. The remaining 6 days of your week, right, put it to all kinds of worldly pursuits. Earn your money, build your houses, buy your property, look after your children, go out, have dinners, throw parties, watch TV, and the lot. Go to the gym, work out, right? Do all that. One day of the week. All I'm asking for are 52 days of the year. That's all. Of the 360 that you have, give me 52 days of the year. That's all I'm asking for. Just 50, take 2 days off. Huh? For whose salvation do I speak on behalf of? Yours. I understand it may not be doable for everyone, but those who can, I urge you to make an effort. See if you can organize your day in such a way that you can bring yourself here and take yourself there. I know it's a bit of a trek. You have to travel up and down. All that is, yes, I understand. But then, someone asks you to come on a trip. Shall we go to golf for the weekend? Yes. Then all those problems out of your mind. Because if there's a will, there's a way. I want you to will for Nibbāna. I want you to have a will for Nibbāna. Make that your last will. Do it or die trying, ladies and gentlemen. Do it or die trying. Because Nibbāna is the only thing that's worth doing ultimately. You have learned that today. Every other acquisition that you make is only yours when you think about it. If you are the head of if you are a business magnate and you are the head of a conglomerate, you have 100 companies to your name, and they revere you when you walk into these business circles. But at that time, there's a dog that passes by and it farts. What is the one thing that's on your mind right now? What's with all the businesses that you've built up from scratch? You can't help yourself from thinking about the dog. Let alone the dog. You're thinking about what he just did. So who are you then? What do you possess? You possess nothing. Atta hi attano natti kuto Puttā kuto Dhanan. Right, let's leave it there. One last thing to mention. Next Saturday we have an ordination ceremony at the monastery. I thought it would be remiss of me not to mention this, but we also have had a bit of an issue trying to accommodate everyone who will be coming this time. So this is not, I don't know, this is a bit of a funny one, because normally I always invite you. And one of the Anagarika Mahathas who used to come here, set up everything, bring Swamin Wanse here, take him back. He's also ordaining this time round. There's a gentleman who came down from Australia with his wife and a daughter. Very educated individuals, both PhD holders, but they have seen the light. They realize that true happiness is in understanding the Dhamma, not the academic pursuits that they once went after. So you're very familiar with the gentleman, so he will be ordaining this time as well. And as per our custom, I will bring him here to speak to you. So the ordination is on Saturday, but because we are actually ordaining, I think, 17 young men on this occasion, several of them have large families and friends. So I think we expect over 3,000 people to gather at the monastery this Saturday. Usually we have around 2,000, 2,500, and enough room for a few Rajagirians. But I can't, I'd love to have you there, don't get me wrong. But when you're there, I want to make sure that you feel at home. I think you'll feel at home. I don't know whether you'll feel very comfortable. Sometimes you might have to queue up to use the toilets, and sometimes you might actually not have seating in the main hall because we'll have to accommodate as much of their families in there, because ultimately, it's their children, their relations that they're giving to the sasana, and every opportunity we have to get them to witness that would be good, wouldn't it? So we are actually having to give audio-video feeds to several buildings in and around the monastery, and we're going to have to scatter groups of people in those rooms. But anyone who will be coming, we will do our best, but I want to let you know in advance. If you are inconvenienced in any way, my apology in advance, and that is why I have not been very keen on passing the invitation. It's only because it can get a little bit crowded on that Saturday. In fact, initially we planned on taking it on 2 days, but then that's twice the effort, twice the work, twice the cost, twice everything. And so we were toing and froing with that idea for a long time, and ultimately we decided, let's take it all on one day and just do it that way. So the invitation is there. You're all welcome. Okay? That's not me saying, but don't come. I think it's just my duty to let you know how things might be on the day. Okay? That's just to make sure that you're not inconvenienced, that's all. All right? Can I just give you a quick bonus? Nibbāna, the word itself, means to disentangle from a pair. Bāna is a pear. A pear. Not a pear that you eat, P-A-I-R, pear. Have you heard of Gongbāna? That's two, what do you call them? Cows, bulls, right? Bulls. Two bulls together when used for agricultural purposes. Usually that's how you use them as a bāna. Bāna is a pear. A Nibbāna is to break free from a pear. Don't you see the pears here? This is nature. This is your creation. Nibbāna then is to eradicate this, to be free from the pair. This is the pair. So once you are freed from that pair, that is Nibbāna. So you are left with Vipaka. So Nibbāna Paramasukhen Sukhitatara. There you have it. Let us all take a moment then to transfer the merits that we have all acquired by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, observing the precepts, taking refuge in the Noble Triple Gem, creating a conducive environment for all, and bringing yourselves here to listen to the Dhamma, to practice the Dhamma. First and foremost, let us take a moment to transfer these merits to the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, upasakas and upasikas, who have since time immemorial protected and preserved the sublime teachings of the Buddha, and passed it down through the generations of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, understand and comprehend the Dhamma. Let us take a moment to transfer these merits to all the monks and nuns resident in your local temples and nunneries who have always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine, as well as the Mahanayakas and the Anunayaka Theras of all of the chapters throughout the world who have sacrificed their life to the Sambuddhasasana. Let us also transfer these merits to my teacher Guru Swami Mahanse, as well as all the monks resident at the monastery and the Anagarikas and Anagarikas attached to the monastery. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to all those who make great efforts to spread the teachings of the Buddha far and wide, be that by transliterating these talks, sharing them out with others, or inviting others to join them. May they all rejoice in these merits. Let us also transfer these merits to friends of the monastery, our devotees who, for the sake of their merits, to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna, continue to sustain the Mahasangha by providing the Sangha with shelter, alms, robes and medicines, as well as passing on their know-how, and continue to extend their well-wishes. May they all rejoice in these merits, and by the power of these merits, may they be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to our mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunties, cousins, nephews and neighbors, and everyone else connected to you and related to you. Let us also transfer these merits to our friends, acquaintances, teachers, as well as anyone and everyone who's helped you, supported you, or assisted you in any way, shape or form possible and available to them. May they all rejoice in these merits. And by the power of these merits, may they also be freed of any physical and mental ailments and overcoming obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to the Devas and Brahmas, spirits and demons, primarily the Sakadeva, as well as all the numerous gods and deities who have committed themselves to fulfill and preserve the Sambuddhasasana. Let us transfer these merits to our guardian deities who keep a watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May they prosper in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to our forefathers, our ancestors, those who have passed away in our name, our loved ones, reminding ourselves that it is in their blood, sweat and tears today we are able to enjoy the comforts of life and practice the path in peace and harmony. Let us also transfer these merits to members of the armed forces as well as the police force who sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation, as well as those who lost their lives in the wars, be their friend or foe. Let us also transfer these merits to those who lost their lives in natural disasters and calamities such as tsunamis and earthquakes, landslides, fires, floods, pandemics and so on, reminding ourselves that in this infinitely long journey of samsara, they will all have been mothers and fathers to us, friends to us, and have supported us in any way, shape or form possible and available to them. And therefore, with a sense of gratitude towards all that they have done for us, let us transfer all the merits that we have all acquired to their name. And by the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful planes, they redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plane. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may by the power and blessings of all the merits we have acquired throughout the day, we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of arahants on this blessed land, and may you and I, and everyone who has helped make this program a success, become a Rahatan Mahansa or an Arahataran Mahansa in this very life itself and in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem be with you all. The members of the Mahasangha will now transfer their blessings to you. Rajagiriya midetva dveshagiriya midetva mohagiriya midetva Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravetva Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravetva Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satvayo Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravetva Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravetva Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravetva Rajagiriya niveva dveshagiriya niveva mohagiriya niveva nivan sapa labeva nivan sapa labeva nivan sapa labeva තුනුරුවන්ගේ සුවිසි අනන්ත මහා ගුණ බෙලින් සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්වයෝම නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛතර වෙත්වා සාදු සාදු සාදු